You think you know Norse mythology. You've seen Odin as the wise old king, Thor as a loud hammer-swinging hero, Loki as a charming trickster with a redemption arc. God of War and Marvel didn't just show you these gods, they taught you who they are. But what if that version is a carefully polished lie? What if the real Norse myths are darker, stranger, and far more unsettling than anything modern media dares to show? Tonight, we peel back the heroic paint and look at the gods as the old stories actually described them: uncomfortable, cruel, and deeply human. In popular culture, Odin is a noble ruler, a strategist, a father figure burdened with wisdom and sacrifice. But the real Odin was not a benevolent king watching over his people. He was obsessed with power, knowledge, and control, even if it meant betrayal. Odin broke oaths, manipulated heroes, and sent warriors to die just to satisfy his hunger for information about Ragnarök. Wisdom for him wasn't about peace, it was about survival at any cost, even if others paid the price. God of War portrays Odin as a master manipulator, but still grounds him in logic and reason. The myths go further. Odin practiced save, a form of magic considered shameful and taboo, even unmanly. Other gods mocked him for it, yet he continued, because he cared more about results than honor. This wasn't a god bound by moral codes. Odin was willing to become something despised if it gave him an advantage, revealing a deity driven more by fear of fate than by wisdom. Then there's Thor, the fan favorite. In Marvel, he's heroic, noble, and morally upright. In God of War, he's brutal, but still framed as a tragic warrior. The real Thor, however, was far closer to a divine weapon than a hero. He wasn't known for mercy or deep thought. He solved problems with violence, excessive drinking, and raw force. Villages didn't pray to Thor because he was kind. They prayed because he was dangerous, and they hoped he'd be dangerous to their enemies instead. Mythological Thor slaughtered giants not out of justice, but instinct. Many giants weren't evil, they were simply other. Thor's rage wasn't righteous, it was automatic. He even endangered humans through collateral destruction, something modern stories conveniently ignore. When Thor swung Mjolnir, mountains shattered and landscapes changed. This wasn't a superhero saving cities. This was a god whose presence alone could be catastrophic, a living storm barely restrained by purpose. And Loki, perhaps the most misunderstood of all. Marvel turned Loki into a lovable anti-hero, a misunderstood brother figure. God of War paints him as clever and dangerous, but still relatable. The myths offer no such comfort. Loki wasn't a tragic victim or misunderstood rebel. He was a force of chaos who enjoyed watching systems break. His tricks weren't lessons, they were acts of cruelty that often ended in death. Loki caused the death of Balder, the most beloved of all gods, not by accident, but by carefully exploiting grief, trust, and loopholes. He watched as Frigg begged the world to protect her son, then calmly found the one thing she missed. This wasn't playful mischief, it was deliberate destruction. Loki didn't want power or worship. He wanted to prove that even the most perfect systems could be undone by a single flaw. Modern adaptations soften Loki because the truth is uncomfortable. The Norse didn't see chaos as cute or necessary. They saw it as inevitable and terrifying. Loki wasn't balance. He was the reminder that order always fails. His punishment wasn't misunderstood cruelty. It was fear. The gods bound him not because he was annoying, but because he represented the end of everything they tried to build. Ragnarök itself is often shown as a final battle between good and evil, gods versus monsters, heroes versus darkness. The real myth is far bleaker. Ragnarök wasn't a war that could be won. It was a slow collapse everyone knew was coming. Odin didn't fight to save the world. He fought to delay his own death. Thor didn't die heroically. He killed the world serpent and then took 9 steps before collapsing from poison.
There is no triumph at Ragnarök, no ultimate victory. The gods fail. Their plans fail. Their sacrifices fail. Even foresight fails. The Norse didn't imagine a universe where good wins forever. They imagined one where even gods face extinction, where courage doesn't guarantee survival, and where fate doesn't care how strong or noble you are. God of War reframes this into a story about breaking cycles, changing destiny, and choosing to be better. It's powerful storytelling, but it's not Norse. The original myths didn't believe fate could be rewritten. Fighting fate wasn't about winning, it was about meeting the end with open eyes. The highest virtue wasn't hope, it was defiance in the face of certain loss. Even Valhalla is misunderstood. Popular media shows it as a glorious reward, endless feasts, eternal glory. But Valhalla wasn't heaven. It was a recruitment center. Warriors were chosen not to be honored, but to be used. Every day they trained, fought, died, and resurrected, all to be thrown into Ragnarök as expendable soldiers. Odin didn't save them, he stockpiled them. The Norse gods weren't protectors of humanity. They were reflections of a harsh world where survival mattered more than goodness. Storms killed without reason, winters starved entire communities. The gods embodied that reality. They were powerful, flawed, and ultimately doomed, just like the people who worshipped them. Marvel gives us gods who evolve morally. God of War gives us gods who can change. The real myths give us something colder, gods who cannot escape themselves. Odin will always manipulate. Thor will always destroy. Loki will always unravel order. Their stories don't ask you to admire them. They ask you to understand the cost of power. This is why the real Norse myths feel unsettling. There is no promise that things will work out, no guarantee that wisdom saves you, no assurance that strength protects you. There is only the choice of how you face what's coming, blind, afraid, or fully aware. So, the next time you see Thor crack a joke or Odin deliver a speech about destiny, remember this: those versions are comfort stories. The real myths were never meant to comfort you. They were meant to prepare you for a world that doesn't care who you are. God of War didn't just change Norse mythology, it softened it. Marvel didn't adapt the gods, they domesticated them. The real Norse gods are not heroes to follow. They are warnings carved into story, reminding us that power, knowledge, and strength all fail in the end. And maybe that's why these myths survived for so long, not because they promised hope, but because they told the truth people were too afraid to say out loud.